Hello, the draft policies for the comprehensive plan are now available for community wide engagement. The comprehensive plan is a long range vision for our community that guides what can be built where in Durham. This video focuses on the policies or the written words in the plan. For a big picture overview of the full plan, watch the video called What Are the Pieces of the Comprehensive Plan? So, what are policies for the comprehensive plan? The policies are written recommendations that help Durham work towards our community's vision. Policies can guide how future development should happen, help local leaders make decisions, and recommend studies the planning department should start. As an example, one of the policies that has been drafted based on what we've heard from the community is to distribute housing that is accessible to those with low incomes equitably throughout Durham and to identify and ensure appropriate locations for affordable housing near jobs, services, and existing or planned transit service. So, how might this policy get used? We're going to walk through 3 examples of how the policies can be put into action. The policies in the comprehensive plan will be used to guide decisions made by elected officials on whether to approve certain kinds of new development. For example, if a property owner wants to change what they are allowed to build on their property, that change must be reviewed by the Planning Commission and approved by either City Council or the County Commissioners. The policies in the plan describe what the community wants to see and does not want to see in new development. These policies will be used by City Council or County Commissioners to guide decisions on whether a proposed development matches with what the policies are saying and should be approved, or if the proposed development conflicts with the policies and should be denied or changed. The policies also act as instructions for what the planning department should be working on in the coming years. Each year, the planning department commits to a work program, which is basically a list of activities, assignments, and special projects to be carried out in the coming year by planning staff. Once the comprehensive plan is adopted, the policies will guide what the planning department should do to implement the plan. This might include updating the rules for development or identifying areas of the community where further studies are needed to provide more guidance for how development should occur. The planning department is just one part of local government, and the policies in the plan will also be used by other departments and organizations to guide their work. For example, draft policies could guide decisions about where to extend water and sewer lines or add new bus routes and sidewalks. They will guide where to plan for new schools. The policies also guide the creation of the new programs, incentives, or budget requests to help create the kind of community that residents want to see in Durham. So, what kinds of things do the policies cover? Policies were drafted to work towards the adopted community goals and objectives and to guide all aspects of growth and development in Durham towards that vision. Since there are over 200 draft policies, they are divided into 8 groupings to help residents navigate the information. These groupings include policies related to accessing housing, including finding and affording housing and reducing barriers to getting housing, policies related to neighborhoods, urban design, and preventing displacement, policies related to green space, environmental justice, farming, healthy food, climate change, sustainability, and resiliency, policies related to public transit, bicycle and sidewalk infrastructure, and streets, policies related to equitable community engagement, transparency, and information, policies related to guiding sustainable development, providing public services, and restricting city expansion that only benefits a few, requires expensive new infrastructure, and causes environmental damage. Policies related to workforce development, access to jobs, programs, or commercial and non-residential development. And policies related to schools, universities and colleges, and childcare facilities. 228 policies are a lot to try and digest and talk about. So while all policies are available for review and input, Staff has highlighted about 10 priority policies that cover the big ideas from each topic. Let's walk through a few example policies and ideas for ways to start working towards them. Going back to our policy example we started with, distribute housing that is accessible to those with low incomes equitably throughout Durham. The final version of the plan will include possible actions to help implement that policy. This policy could be implemented by incentivizing affordable housing along bus corridors, investing in affordable housing in neighborhoods where residents have been displaced, and creating housing on institutional properties like schools or libraries. Another example comes from the environment policies. One policy is encourage green infrastructure such as trees, green spaces, vegetated areas, and green roofs. This infrastructure should be prioritized in historically redlined areas if desired by the community. This policy could be implemented by changing development rules to protect more trees, developing programs to put things like community gardens on publicly owned land, and incentivizing ways to design development that can handle more frequent and intense rainstorms. Our final example is from the transportation policies. One is plan, design, and maintain new development so it is connected to nearby areas and includes investments which prioritize pedestrians, transit riders, paratransit riders, and bicyclists over vehicle drivers. This policy could be implemented by changing the rules for development to require inclusion of sidewalks, bus stops, and bike lanes, and by focusing on non vehicular ways to travel when planning for transportation needs in new development. We are now seeking community-wide input on the draft policies for the comprehensive plan. This engagement will last from late April until the end of June. To provide your input on the draft policies and learn more about all the pieces of the comprehensive plan, please visit engagedurham.com/comprehensive-plan. Thank you.